Whatever you experience in these next few minutes, just be kind to it. Don't be afraid. Don't be expecting something. Just be here. When you make peace with this moment, you find you develop a lot of peace. You find how easy it is to be peaceful by being accepting, kind, embracing, being happy to be here. In this moment, you're not being judged. I will not judge you. Please don't judge yourself. This is who you are. Let it be. That's called making peace. If there's any aches and pains in the body, move the body, adjust it. That's being kind to your body. If just by moving the ache or the pain doesn't disappear, then just give it kindness. Say to that part of the body, even though you might be hurting me, that's part of nature. I accept that. I'll be kind to you. Then you can relax almost anything. And the body feels peace. Feels a sense of freedom, doesn't have to fight things. And let go of all the past. And let go of all the worry about the future. We just look after the only thing we have now. It's already arrived, it's here. Whatever it is, we can learn so much from the present, much more than from the past. How do you feel now? We're coming close to the end of this meditation. Just a relaxation. Simple. But it feels good. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. The meditation is finished. Excellent. Cheers. Okay, so now the talk. So here we go. The title of the talk was learning how to be compassionate towards yourself, wasn't it? Okay, something like that. It sounds very simple, sounds very easy, but what does it actually mean? Even learning how to be compassionate, to be kind. It's amazing just how many people know how to spell that word but don't know how to practice it. Compassion. It's sometimes that we feel that we are confused. If you're compassionate to yourself, that means you're being mean to others. And is that really the way? Does it mean that we have to only look after ourselves and not look after others? And also, to yourself, who are you anyway? Who do you actually give compassion towards? So hopefully I can overcome some of those confusions by just talking a few lovely similes. In one of the first books that I wrote, in the opening I wrote a poem. No, it was actually quoting a poem, a Chinese proverb, which said, "Grant yourself a moment of peace, and you realize how foolishly you have scurried about. Learn to be kind, and you will find how severe you have judged yourself and others. Learn to be silent, and you will notice you've talked too much. Little sayings like that really help, because they point to what kindness is. It's not just kindness to oneself, like learn to be kind and you realise you've judged others and yourself too much. Why on earth do we judge people or judge ourselves? It makes no sense to me. I know that sometimes that people have problem with anger, and sometimes we think there are some people in this world we deserve to be angry about. Do you? Sometimes I looked at how does anger work? I mean, what is the process of getting angry at somebody? And I notice if I'm going to get angry at somebody, it's like I put them on trial. I can't just get angry without justifying it. But when I try to justify my anger at somebody, that yes, we have like a court of law, we have a judge, which is me, we have a prosecutor, who is me, have a jury, which is me, and we don't have, well, actually we do have a defence attorney, but never says anything, because I don't allow them to say anything. So I think it's very fair. So as a prosecutor, I say this, she did this and she did that and she did something else and blah, 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 and she shouldn't have done that. And the jury says yes. And then we get to this point where the judge, who is also me, says yes, guilty. I've got to justify my anger towards somebody. But I noticed I was totally unfair. So then what I started to do as a young monk, whenever I wanted to get angry at somebody, I would insist on having a defense attorney. In other words, I would start deliberately thinking, no matter how hard it was, for all the exonerating details of the person I'd accused, all the excuses you could make for doing that really selfish behaviour, just all of the arguments to try and get them off the hook. That was compassion. I don't know why people do things, but sometimes they do these things and sometimes there's a reason behind it. Sometimes they're a bit crazy, sometimes they're a bit tired, sometimes they thought they were saying one thing and they said another thing. And so in the end, I was such a good defense attorney that after the end of every investigation, there was only one judgment I could make, which was not proven. There was always reasons why you could excuse them, whatever they did. And that was wonderful when I just could not get angry at anybody. I couldn't justify it. And that made life much more easy. And then once I could do that to other people, then I could do that to myself. As you treat others, you treat yourself. What are all the stupid things you've done in your life? Do you want to tell me? It'd be very entertaining. I'm going to tell you one of the stupid things which I did. Embarrassing to tell people. You know, I've been a monk now over 49 years. Next year is my 50th. That's a long time being a monk. Part of being a monk is you're celibate. You don't have any hanky-panky with women. You know what hanky-panky is, don't you?
Or men, Ajahn.
Or men, or anybody. So, there's one time, many years ago, there was a string of scandals with monks in my tradition over in Thailand. I don't know if you remember that. Many of those monks were caught with mistresses. And so one evening, I realized that honesty was really important in the spiritual life. How can you really teach others if you're not honest and open up to them. So one evening in my temple in Perth, Western Australia, I made my confession. I looked down on the floor and said, many years ago, I spent some of the happiest times of my life in the loving arms of another man's wife. We kissed, we hugged, I loved her. But she was married to someone else. That was my confession. You know, when I said that, a few people close to the door were about to walk out. Oh no, not Ajahn Brahm as well. And then I told that woman, who I loved very dearly, we kissed, we hugged, and she was married to somebody else, was my mother. My mum, she was married to my dad. Have you heard that before? No. Okay. I thought I could wind you up and get a laugh out of you, never mind. But nevertheless, the reason I told that story is how easy it is to judge somebody. You don't know what really happened. It sounds, to all intents and purposes, that's like adultery. You know, kissing and hugging and loving somebody else's wife. But when you know there was my mum, it's a totally different aspect to the story. So that's why I tell it. And that's also why I've got a stupid sense of humour. So next time, don't just be compassionate to yourself, please be compassionate to me. And if I tell a story like that, please laugh. You know, it's very good to laugh these days. Years ago, when I went over to Singapore, they'd arranged for me to give these series of talks in a big convention centre. There's 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people going. And they'd arranged all of this, and honestly, they had put my photo on the back of a bus to advertise it. So when you say that Ajahn Brahm has got a face like the back of a bus, that was actually true. But then, when I arrived in Changi Airport in Singapore, on the plane going there, the aircraft going there, in the front page of the newspaper, 99 people had got SARS in Singapore. It's like a precursor of COVID. All the schools were shut. All the events were supposed to be cancelled. And all the people who'd organised my event were waiting for me. What should we do? They spent so much money, prepared so much. What should we do? I think you know my attitude. Let's go for it. And my argument was, 99 people had got, I think they died of SARS or something by that time. And I asked, how many people, what's the population of Singapore? And they said, I think, it was about 3 or 4 million. So I said, well, that means that 3,999,901 people haven't died of SARS. Let's go ahead. So we went ahead. Now, honestly, there's a lot of wisdom for that. Why are we so afraid when they are reasonable? It's very unlikely you're going to get any serious problems out of that. But also, I knew that the sort of talks which I give are not just giving you information, but also making you laugh. Because when you laugh, what happens? You're exercising your respiratory system, which means that your lungs get stronger. And when they get stronger, it means you have more immunity from things like COVID and SARS. So please, tell your bosses or tell your children, or say you went to a health talk this evening on how to laugh more so you don't catch these diseases. I always say as a Buddhist monk, you should always be positive, except for COVID. Please be negative. Oh, thank you. Even though you've heard that before. Encourage me. What's the best blood type? Be positive. That's obvious. Okay. You haven't heard that one before, that's why you've grown. Yeah. You know, not on this trip, but on a previous trip to UK, I was on the underground bus in London somewhere. And when I was on the underground bus, this woman sat next to me, and the conversation went, "Are you a monk?" I said, "Yes." The second, "A real monk?" I said, "Yes." Because a lot of people would love to understand something about this way of life, Buddhism. It's got a good reputation, reasonably good, except for the bad jokes. So she wanted to have a discussion now on the underground train. It was quite full at the time, and as she was discussing, we got onto the subject of reincarnation or rebirth. And she asked me about rebirth. She said, "Is it really true?" So I told her that about 3 months earlier in Australia I was teaching a meditation retreat. And this meditator, I think he was from an Italian background, he had these kind of visions in his meditation. Really interesting. The first thing he saw himself as a strand of spaghetti. That's kind of weird. And then, on another meditation, he saw himself as a piece. Is any Italian people here? Yeah, okay. You can maybe understand this. He saw himself as a piece of macaroni. And he asked, "What does this mean?" And I got it straight away. I've been meditating for so many years. I said, "Sir, you're remembering your past lives." Okay, that's much better than you're laughing at this silly joke. But the interesting thing was, if you've ever been in an underground train in London, no one ever looks at you. They're looking at their mobile phones. In the old days, they're newspapers. But when I said that punchline, they all looked up at me. They were listening all the time. And now they were looking up at me. Half of them laughed, the other half groaned. But at least I got a response for them. So sometimes with humour it's a wonderful way of being kind. It conveys that, because when we laugh together. It's a beautiful way. What happens if you live by yourself? How can you be kind to yourself when you live alone? Many people live alone these days. My first meditation teacher taught me how to be kind to myself. Because when he saw me, he said, you never smile. You always look miserable. And I said, "Sir, if you knew my lifestyle as a student, I get up late in the morning and I go to bed late. And when you first get up in the morning, remember what it's like being young? It's so hard to get up early in the morning. Anybody, it's hard to get up early in the morning. Just like that story of the mother who tried to get her son up early in the morning. Have you got sons? It's hard to get them up to go to school in the morning? I think you know what I mean. So anyway, she went to her son's bedroom, knocked on the door, let herself in. "Son, you've got to get up and go to school." "Mummy, I don't want to go to school." "But son, you have to go to school." "Mummy, give me one good reason why I should go to school. The teachers don't like me, the other children don't like me, no one likes me in school. Why should I go to school, Mummy?" "Son, because you're the headmaster." even headmasters don't want to go to school in the morning. But anyway, being kind to yourself. Wouldn't it be wonderful being kind to yourself? If you don't want to go to school in the morning, don't. Is that a good option? Be careful, because your children will tell you, Mummy, Ajahn Brahm said if you don't want to go to school in the morning, you should stay in bed. Be kind to yourself. Be compassionate to me. I get into trouble like that, you know. Because one way of being kind to yourself in this modern world, how many of you work too much? Work too hard? Yeah, I do. You know how old I am now? I'm 72. I should be retired by now. I'm working day and night, night and day. Sometimes I work so hard I don't know whether it's night or day. So, anyway, I should be relaxing, but I still work hard. You know one of the tricks to be able to take a rest? This was this one monk many years ago in Thailand. He decided to build a new hall in his monastery. I mention that because even today we saw a new possible vihara monastery. Yeah, vihara is a monastery.
No, but it's a big one.
Big vihara, okay. A big vihara for Anukampa. It's nice that you can actually start to accept more people who want to visit, who want to stay, who want to ordain. But it's a lot of work. But we're always doing that out of kindness for others to make sure that we can expand. And in this particular case, I always got to be very careful that Venerable Chanda is compassionate towards herself and doesn't burn herself out. And the way to do that is this way. This monk in Thailand was building this huge hall in his monastery. When it came to the retreat time, he told all the builders to go home, even though the hall wasn't finished. It was retreat time to be quiet, time to have a rest. He granted himself those moments of peace, because that's really important. No one else will give you that peace. You have to grant yourself those moments or days or weeks of peace. So he sent the builders home. He said, come back in another 3 months. It was the long winter retreat or summer retreat in Thailand. So off they went, and the next day this visitor came and he saw that hall and said, when is it going to be finished? You know what that monk said? He said, that hall is finished. And the man said, you're saying it's finished? There's no roof on. There's no glass in the windows. There's cement bags and rubbish all over the place. Is this some sort of artistic statement? A new type of building? Are you some sort of revolutionary artist? Are you going to leave it like this? How can you say it's finished? And this monk replied, and this is the most important line, Sir, what's done is finished. And then he went back to his hut and took a rest. How beautiful that is. In your house, in your vihara or monastery, when will it be finished? It's finished now. What's done is finished. I'm not sure if your boss is a Buddhist. If he is or she is, tell him tomorrow. Have you finished that job yet? Boss, what's done is finished. So see what happens. And sometimes it works, because sometimes even the boss realizes you have to take that time off to be kind to yourself, to be kind to the business. If you just work, maybe what comes out from your work is a lot, but it's a very low quality. But anyway, one of the reasons I told that story, because I got into trouble for it, the one night some parents and the kids came to listen to the talk, And the following Sunday, the mother and father came to complain to me. You remember that story you said about what's done is finished? And he said, my son, he was about 16 or 17, he wanted to go out on a Saturday night with his friends. And I said, you've got to do your homework first. Once your homework's done, then you can go out. So he got all dressed up to go out. Son, have you finished your homework now? And he replied, just as Ajahn Brahm taught, what's done is finished. Bye-bye, Dad. Really, that was actually quite wise what he said. Because really, all the work in your life, it's never finished until you make it finished. What's done is finished. And then you can either meditate, you can relax, you can go to sleep, take a rest. It's very hard for people to find peace in their life, especially these days. Why? Sometimes I tell the similar, this is something Buddhist now. Actually it's all Buddhist, but this is a traditional old Buddhist story of this Zen monk who made one of the most beautiful Zen gardens in the whole of Japan. It was so well known that many tourists and others came to admire this incredibly beautiful, serene monk's Zen garden in Japan. You know, the Japanese gardening is always amazing somehow, the way they can arrange everything in such a way which kind of balance and brings you to a deep state of peace of mind. But anyway, this old meditation monk heard about this incredible Zen garden and he wanted to check it out. So he arrived at that Zen garden really early in the morning, before it was even opened up for visitors. He wanted to find out the secret of the most famous Zen garden in the whole of Japan. So he climbed over the wall, hid behind one of the bushes, and saw this middle-aged Zen monk come out early with 2 big baskets. And he went to the courtyard and he picked up, not with a broom, he picked up by hand every leaf or twig which had fallen the night before. And he examined each leaf and twig, and then if he thought it was beautiful, well formed, of a good colour, he would put it in one basket. If he thought it was like a rubbish leaf or rubbish twig, he put it in another basket. That way he assessed and separated every leaf and twig in that garden. When he had finished, he threw the rubbish leaves on the compost pile, and then he had a cup of tea. Just reminding me. And a little meditation. So he could do the most important part of the ceremony next. Then he took the big basket of beautiful leaves and twigs and he placed them individually around this huge cherry tree in the middle of the courtyard. Sometimes he placed one there. Are there any artists here this evening? Any artists? Yeah, you two are. You can understand how to be able to place them just in the right position, the right way round, and the leaves of different colours, that they interact. And sometimes you would put a leaf down of a twig, you stand back, look at it, and you just go back to it and just twist it around slightly. And it made all the difference. He had such a beautiful understanding of shape and colour and how they all interacted on the garden, that when he was finished, that garden was absolutely magnificent. And then he would open it up and all the visitors would come and admire the most beautiful garden in the whole of Japan. And she did that this morning, and once this monk was finished, the other meditation monk who had climbed over the wall to watch came out from behind a bush and said to this young monk, middle-aged monk, "I've been watching you all morning. I admire you so much, the amount of care and precision in the way you've laid out the leaves and the twigs here is amazing, it's wonderful. Your garden is almost perfect." And that word, almost. That young Zen monk, you could see the colour drain from his face. His lips started to quiver. And then he fell to the floor and said, "Oh, you must have been sent here by the Buddha himself to teach me how to make my garden really perfect. Please teach me, O great master, what I can do to make my garden the most beautiful in the whole world." And the old monk said, "Do you really want to know?" "Yes, please, out of compassion for me." This talk is about compassion. This is what compassion is. "Out of compassion for me, please share your wisdom." "Okay," said the old monk, and he strode to the middle of the garden. He put his arms around the big cherry tree in the middle. He hugged it and then shook the hell out of it. And so many twigs and leaves fell all over the garden, messing up his morning's work. And when that was finished, the old monks looked back and said, "Yes, now that's perfect." Do you understand? Are you perfect? If not, let someone shake you up a bit. You don't need to have this idea of perfection which is unnatural. Just like here in UK, trains are always late. That's the nature of them. That's what I found coming here. You don't expect them to be on time. And so what? You arrive a little late. That's not so bad. It's kind of interesting. Have you ever been late for anything? Once that I have a nephew over here in UK. Because he's my nephew and I'm his uncle, you know what he calls me? Munkle. That's true. So it was only just like a courtesy that when he finally decided to get married, he sent me an invitation to his marriage. It was in the Lake District, and I live in Australia. There's no way you could go to the Lake District from Australia just for your nephew's wedding. Is there? It's just too far. But my nature is that you always wanted to do things which were impossible. And it just so happened. In those days I was teaching a meditation retreat outside of Frankfurt in Germany. And after that I gave a couple of days talks over in Norway. And after that, I looked at the timetables, and it was only just possible, with a bit of luck, you could get to London in a red-eye special flight, and then get a lift up to the Lake District with a friend who was from Thailand living in London. And so anyway, I got as far as London. And then when we were travelling up the M6 to get to the Lake District, there was a huge traffic jam. You know what it's like, just like the trains, the roads are blocked. That's the nature of roads in UK, isn't it? Even though I live in Australia, there's a few things I've learnt on this trip. Trains are late, roads are blocked. But he had a monk in the car, and so I said, forget about sort of fines and stuff. I'll do some chanting so the police can't catch us. That's what we did. We went down the emergency lane. It was an emergency. And that's where I learned all the language of these truckies in UK. And I kept on putting up a finger saying, you're the number one. Always interpret the best. But anyway, getting to the Lake Districts, some places just the roads are small and it's just really hard. But eventually we got there. It was 2 minutes after the wedding had started, or was supposed to have started. The other thing which I know, that in weddings it's still the same. The bride always comes down the aisle late. She's got to make a statement, who's the boss, at the very beginning. That's why I say over in Asia, especially in Sri Lanka, there's lots of wedding blessings over there. And I say to them once they're married, I said, when you're single, you're like a two-legged animal, you can go any direction you want, you're independent. Once you're married, you're like a four-legged animal. One body, four legs. It's important you go in the same direction. You're like an elephant. And because it's Asia, you've seen this many times, it's Thailand, Sri Lanka. In Asia, the front legs of the elephant have to be the male. The back legs are the woman. But in Asia, the elephant always walks backward. The couple of Sri Lankans are laughing in the back. It's true, isn't it? Yeah, you bet it's true. But anyhow, I don't know why I got into that.
The wedding.
Oh, the wedding, yeah, the wedding of the wedding of my nephew. The only person who knew I was coming, it was supposed to be a surprise. There's actually two people knew I was coming. That was me, actually three people. Me, the driver, who was trying to get me there, and my brother knew I might come. So you can imagine the wedding. Everyone was sitting down, there was a priest there, and everyone was dressed up. The only person who hadn't come down the aisle yet was the bride. So instead, who came down the aisle in a nice robe, properly dressed for the occasion, was me. I kind of thought that was a nice entrance. Hi, nice to see you. That's a nice entrance too. Excellent. I was late, but it worked out so well because being late means I could make an entrance. So sometimes we are late. So the only thing I don't want to be late for are funerals. There's only one person who's late at a funeral. The late Mr. So-and-so. The one who's died. So anyway, you try your best to be on time, but sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes you are late, and it's not your fault. It's part of life. We try our best, but if we do fail, wonderful, you're human. Just about 3 months ago, for the Sri Lankans in the back, you may know that it wasn't me who was late. It was... I haven't missed a plane very often in my life as a monk. But when I went to Sri Lanka, I visit quite often. I'm very well known there. So they told me I had to go into the VIP lounge, before boarding. And that's, where the real VIPs and presidents and ministers and stuff go. I didn't have a choice. So, when you go in there, it's really nice. In those VIP lounge, you just sit down there in a nice... they don't interview you, they just ask for your passport and they take it away and they bring it back all stamped. You don't go through customs. of anything. They don't ask you, where you go and you've got a cough or any diseases. You know that sometimes somebody actually asked me in the United States when I was going from one city to another, they looked at me and said, "What have you got under your robe?" And they said, "Is it a suicide belt?" Because like sometimes there's people in some religions, they put an explosive belt underneath to cause trouble. So is it one of those? I said, "No, it's only fat." And they said the same thing. A suicide belt. It's also over in Perth Airport. I know everybody over there because I travel a lot. But anyway, one of the people when I was coming through, you had to put all your stuff through the X-ray machines, and they asked me, in your bag, have you got any sharp objects? No. Have you got any sort of hair gel? I just said, come on. And when you've got a sense of humour, it really helps because they know you, they laugh, and they'll get through. So it's nice to be able to get through so easily over there. They trust you. So anyway, back to where I was, Sri Lanka. No, before Sri Lanka. Airport. Yeah, before that.
Sri Lanka.
So, crikey. Oh yeah, the airport in Sri Lanka.
Oh, the wedding. What happened? Who came?
You ate in the VIP lounge, yeah. So they give you a cup of tea, which is really nice. You don't ask for it; they just hand it to you. Anything else you want, sir? Really nice, not chairs like this, like armchairs. It's like VIP. Is the tea strong enough for you, sir? Even in Anukampa Vihara, I don't get that degree of service. Tomorrow.
Witnesses.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. And so I know that when their flight is supposed to depart, and I asked one of the attendants, the hostesses, and they already had my boarding passes, everything was ready, and I said, "Isn't it time we go to the gate?" And they said, "Don't worry, Ajahn Brahm." And that kind of shocked me, because I tell other people not to worry. It's the first time someone told me, "Don't worry." We'd always get you there on time. And another 5 or 10 minutes went past and I said, "I think I really need to get to the gate." "Don't worry." And eventually when I did get to the gate, you saw the air bridge separating from the aircraft. I'd missed the flight. It didn't matter. I didn't die. I didn't get sick. Just to spend a few more hours in Colombo, that's all. That was good fun. I don't know why people worry. Even once when I was supposed to give a talk over in Indonesia, the flight from Perth was on Garuda Air. The Garuda aircraft. And so when I got to the airport, it was worse than the British Rail. I saw there that it was cancelled. The flight was cancelled. And I saw a number of people on the desk, where Garuda Airlines was trying to help them. And they were banging on the table and shouting, "You can't do this to us." It's the people who are the hostesses or the people trying to help. They don't do it to you on purpose. Just the plane didn't arrive, so they can't just get a plane straight away to help you. And anyway, I realised what the problem was. Those were the years of bird flu, and Garuda is a bird. And I said the aircraft had got the flu. You can always find some reason, instead of getting upset and angry, to have this sort of kindness to yourself, and kindness to others, and kindness to companies, and kindness to organisations like Anukampa, kindness to your husband, kindness to your wife, kindness to your children, kindness to your parents, kindness to your government. I tried to slip that in there, but no, honestly, the only thing about government or politicians, ministers, is that no, please don't kill yourself, because I will feel very guilty. Okay, you promise? Thank you. No, the trouble with politicians is that I don't know why people want to be politicians. Because no one actually gives you any praise. They always see one or two mistakes and they want to sort of sack you straight away. It's just weird. I've known a few politicians. Some have been excellent. There was a time, and this is when I thought that I could really make a difference in this world as a Buddhist monk, because the head politician in Western Australia, it wasn't a federal politician, it was a state politician, but he was very influential, very popular and very powerful. You know, the economy of Western Australia is huge. So this fellow, he became a friend and a disciple. He would come to our monastery. But not only that, this man was a very, very close friend at the time of Tony Blair. He was the best man at Tony and Cherry's wedding. So I'd already got this Jeff Gallup almost converted. So I thought, great, now I've got a pathway into converting Tony and Cherry Blair. And once I've got them to be Buddhists, they're very close to George Bush. And once I've got the White House to be Buddhist, then I've got the world. It was close, but it didn't quite work. But he's still, Jeff Gallup is still the patron of a retreat centre over in Perth. I think people have been listening in from the MI5, MI6. Who's the spy agency in UK now? MI5 and MI6, okay. Is it MI5 and MI6? I'm not sure. You know, the person who went outside has disappeared. I hope she comes back. Okay, ending soon. Okay. So the title of the talk, which I'm now going to address, is being kind to yourself. And this is just one way which I've been kind to myself. Just, we're tired, had a busy time trying to get here on time and failing. But nevertheless, it's wonderful to be able to create happiness in this world. Tell a few funny stories, real stories, and stories which just show just what kindness does for you. No matter what goes wrong, you can always see a funny side of it. When you can see the funny side to things which go wrong, you can laugh at it, it doesn't hurt so much. When it doesn't hurt so much, it means you don't get upset at yourself, don't get upset at others, and blame too many other people. I don't know why we blame other people. We don't blame ourselves when we don't finish the talk on time, because even if it's in the middle of a sentence, what's said is finished. No, you can't do that to me. This is like once, this actually happened, that we were raising funds for some project or other. It's like similar to being here to raise funds for the Anukampa new monastery. And I'm sure you won't tell me to stop when I'm on this subject. So anyway, I was telling the simile of how this monk, he started a new temple. I said monk, not nun, on purpose, when you know where this is going. This monk started a new temple. And it's very hard because we never charge for anything. Actually, we charge for this, don't we? But anyhow, you usually do it by donations only. And so, this monk was not getting enough donations. So I went to see one of these senior monks for advice. And he said, it's a simple thing. It's always when you begin, no one really knows you. You've got to get a reputation, and then soon more people will support you and they see the value in it. So he said, the next time you give a talk in your temple, close all the windows, turn the temperature up so it's really hot and stuffy, and give a boring talk. And he said it's easy to do that last one, a boring talk. And when all the people in the audience start to get sleepy, you take out a watch, swing it from left to right. And as you're swinging it from left to right, when they start to feel a bit sleepy or otherwise hypnotized, you give them the instructions. When you go out, actually, what I don't know UK money anymore. What's the highest banknote in UK? £50 and then 20?
Yeah.
Or 25?
50 and 20.
Okay. So when you go out of the door, no 20s, no 10s, no 5s, no coins, only 50s. Nothing less. And then he finished his talk, and it worked. That post-hypnotic suggestion worked, and everybody put £50 notes in the donation box. He really cleaned up that day. And he said he didn't need to do that every week, otherwise people would soon suss him out. So he waited a couple of weeks until he needed some more cash to pay his bills, and he tried it again. Closed the windows, turned up the heat, gave a boring sermon. When people were about to fall asleep, got out a watch, started swinging it. You know what happened next? He dropped the watch. And he said automatically, oh shit. And it took them a couple of weeks to clean the hall. And the reason I tell that story, because when I was doing a fundraiser, I never turned the heat up, it wasn't a boring talk, but I told that story, and one of the monks who was sitting next to me pulled the electricity out of the microphone and wouldn't let me finish. So that was Ajahn years ago. But anyway, Ajahn.
Oh, where?
And Bodhinyana.
Pulled it out?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter because I've got a loud voice. You can pull the thing out of the microphone and I'll still say it. So anyhow, it is actually.
Time for some
Oh, tell you. So time for some Q&A. How to be kind to yourself. No questions? Okay. Okay, yeah, okay.
I'm currently going through divorce.
Ah,
I'm really
good.
struggling.
Ah.
To terms with it, and I just want your wisdom.
Okay.
Paraphrase.
Yes, okay. You're going through a separation and divorce, you're really struggling with it. First of all, if I can ask you not to blame anybody, but most importantly, don't blame yourself. It's weird that this is, I'm not being gender specific, but in all the years which you've been counselling people, that it's the women who take the blame. And they don't need to, for goodness sake. But you always think you could have done more. It happens. You know, what comes together, sometimes separates again. Have you got kids?
Yeah, little girl.
Little girl. And she probably is telling you, well done, Mum.
No, she's a bit too young for that. She's
Okay.
young for Daddy at the minute.
Okay, yeah. But afterwards, she's, a lot of times I've seen this and the kids say, Mummy, I don't know how you put up with that for such a long time. Children are quite honest. But sometimes it doesn't work out. You try your very, very, very best. But one of those things which does actually work, I talk about marriages a lot because most people do actually get married. Not many people become monks and nuns. So when you do get married, who's the most important person? Don't answer. Because I ask this, look in the eyes of the bride, if it's man-woman marriage, and I ask, from now on, I ask, you're a married woman, you must not think of yourself. And I look at the guy and say, you're a married man now, you must not think of yourself. Still looking at the he nods as well, eventually. It takes time though, I don't know why. And I still look at the guy and said, now you're a married man. From this moment on, I don't want you to think of your wife. Look at the wife and say, from this moment on, you must not think of your husband. I love saying that because people do listen to me, they do pay attention. They think, did I hear this right? Now I'm married, I must not think of my partner, I must not think of myself. You only think of us. It's kind of a third option which people forget. If you just think of him, then you get burnt out. If you just think of yourself, you get selfish. Thinking of us is the only way. It's the same even in Parliament. Can't we think of us rather than just my party? Can't we just think of us, even on a football match, instead of my side? There's very, very, very few Buddhist sports teams. Sri Lanka loves cricket, don't they? How did they do in the World Cup? Terrible. I'm very proud of them. They were being good Buddhists. The last thing you want to do is bowl somebody out. That causes them so much disappointment. And if somebody they bat the ball in your direction, it's an easy catch, of course you drop it. Out of compassion. The same as in soccer. If there was a Buddhist soccer team, like Thailand is a Buddhist country, does that ever do well in soccer? It's got a huge population. They never actually go to any World Cup, and I'm very proud of them for that. If you have the ball, what should you do with it? Let go. Don't attach. And if the other team can't score a goal, you score an own goal for them. It's compassion. Compassion. It'd be interesting to see a game played by a Buddhist team against another Buddhist team. It'd be certainly very different. Another question, sorry, yeah. No, please, but main thing is, don't blame yourself. Yes?
Yeah. This is a bit of a global question I've been thinking.
Yeah.
If everybody in the world becomes monks and nuns,
Yes.
that means we're extincted in a while because there won't be no hanky-panky. Do you think it would be worth it?
Yeah, of course it will.
Yeah?
Okay, if all the people in the whole world became monks and nuns and there was no hanky-panky, then the world would die out.
Yeah.
It wouldn't. There'd be many monkeys and animals, and they would take over, and maybe they'd do a much better job, than the sort of United Nations or the Parliament in where is it, in Westminster. We can give it a try. No?
We won't be there to see the result, will we?
I'm very happy not to. They may blame me if it goes wrong. No, this is one thing which, when I became a monk, people said, well, what if I have a brother? And that was very helpful, having a brother. So, to carry on the family name line. What are you talking about? Family name and line. It just says, aren't there enough people in this world? There's more than enough people in this world. So really, the government, in order to lower population, they should actually sponsor the nuns' monastery. And anyone who wants to become a monk or a nun, just gets this extra money. So there'll be more monks and nuns in this world. That would lower the world population. And the monks and nuns are usually very kind and very wise, and they will give nice teachings, kindness and wisdom. The world will become a much better place. So don't you think we should ask the government of UK for a few million to sponsor more monasteries? Just have a monastery over in Bristol, a monastery over in Bath, a monastery over in, where else?
Swindon.
It's Oxford, Swindon. Yeah.
Stroud.
There was this one fellow who I got to know. He was an economist working in Reading University, I think it was, and he was also an advisor in the Bank of England. He was very smart. And at a conference where we co-presented, he said the Buddhist contribution to economic prosperity. Because this is what his job was, trying to advise the government, how to be a better government to get regulations so you can have more prosperity in your life. You need to struggle for money. And he did his maths, and he said, if we can have more Buddhist monks and Buddhist nuns, the world will become much more prosperous. And he said this because whenever you have monks and nuns, we encourage people to be more virtuous, to be more kind, to be more simple, not to waste too much money. And he said, he did his maths, and he said, if UK had more monks and nuns, they'd be so much more prosperous. And he said, well, how would you look after those monks and nuns? It don't cost much to look after. And when he did the mathematics, it costs less to look after a monk and a nun than to look after a dog in your backyard. It does, he did the maths. He was an economist at Reading University. So the conclusion was, every home should have one. And just like a dog, dogs eat out of bowls, just like monks and nuns do. You've seen alms bowls, and they live in little dog houses. They call them kutis for a monk or a nun. And just like the monks in Thailand, nuns in Sri Lanka, or wherever, you go on arms round in the morning, start taking your dog for a walk. So that's my economic suggestion for prosperity and kindness in the UK. Every home should have one. It's much cheaper than having a dog. Dogs are very nice, they teach you a lot of kindness, but they don't give you wise advice. Not like nuns do. Another question. Yeah, go on.
My advice would be, what advice would you give to someone that finds it hard to find a balance in life? Like they're either really positive and ignore the bad things, or extremely negative and ignore the positive things.
Oh no, you have to have...
Paraphrase.
Oh yeah, advice, people who either see just the positive things and ignore the negative, or ignore the positive and just see the negative, or both and neither and all the way inside out and round about. Sometimes you see the positive in the negative, which means if you see any difficulties in the life, a good example of that is just like the wars, which at the moment are happening in Palestine and Israel and Ukraine and Myanmar and in Africa. This war's always happening. Why? So you see the negative there, and it's reminding us that why do we look at people and think that they are different? Look at people, their religions, and think that they are so different that we have to ignore the other people rather than working together. And it gives you the opportunity to do something different in life. with the wars, I don't know about you, but I went to a school which was so multicultural. And I only found out recently that in the school in Acton which I went to, there was another man who went there, I think 2 or 3 years before I went there. He was 2 or 3 years earlier. And his name was Alan Rickman. He was Professor Snape. And when I see just now what Professor Snape does, to me I reckon he was modelling that on Mr. Jones, who was a disciplinarian in the school I went to. But nevertheless, a tough school, but people can make use of that. Instead of getting angry at the negativity in this life, we learn from it. Okay, here we go again, the story I tell every talk which I give about this fellow walking down one of the streets in Bristol, and he trod in the dog shit. Big pile of dog poo on the pavement, and he put his foot right into it. And he just stood away a little bit to scrape it off, which was the wrong thing to do, because as he was busy scraping off his shoe, there's another guy was walking down. This time it was a bikie, a really big bikie with tattoos and chains all over him, and he trod in the dog poo too. And the first guy said, I did that, and the bikie went bang. But that's not what you should do. I got that to laugh good. If you tread in something as negative as dog poo, what should you do? I tell this every time. You don't scrape it off your shoes. You take it home with you. And most people have got a garden. If you haven't got a garden yourself in a little park next door, you dig it in under the apple tree, or if you're in a place like Thailand, under the mango tree. And if you dig it in under the mango tree, 1 year later, your mangoes will be so sweet and juicy. And you must always remember when you bite into that juicy mango, and the juice starts dripping down your cheek, you must always remember what you're really eating. Dog poo. Transformed into the sweetest, juiciest mango you've ever tasted in your life. On this tour, I was just telling people where that story came from. Because over in the north of Thailand, I spent 6 wonderful months in this cave up in the mountains in Medang district. And when I was there, it was in a bat cave. There's so many bats in that cave. And there was a mango tree right at the entrance, sorry, not mango, a papaya tree right at the entrance of that cave. And all these thousands of bats would poo on that papaya tree in the morning as they flew out, and poo again in the evening. And honestly, that papayas on that tree they were the sweetest and juiciest I've ever tasted in my whole life. I've had many papayas since, but nothing beats those papayas which were fertilized by bat poo. And I don't usually eat much fruit, do I?
No.
You see that? You just see a whole papaya, big one. I'd eat the whole lot. It was so delicious. So I thank the bats for that. So I've got a lot of bat poo in me. It's true. Thanks for the papayas. Okay, next question.
I think you've stopped all questions.
Stop all questions, yeah, because I'm afraid what they're going to hear next. Go on.
I got one for you, Ajahn Brahm. Thank you for coming and talking to us tonight. I really appreciate it. I would like to, one of the things you mentioned was that we all need our very own monk to live with us in our home.
Yeah.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Because I tend to lose sight of what I know to be true and what I've learned in my Buddhist walk, if you will, as I started walking it. But how do I keep that more at the forefront on a daily basis when I'm assailed with, outside influences?
Yeah, one thing to do is get on things like the YouTube channels, get the websites. Or even better than that, is why don't you ordain as a monk? And then your wife, she can have the good influence. Is that a good idea? Yeah, good idea. You're in trouble now. No, sometimes, sometimes go to monasteries. That's one of the reasons why we're building a big monastery, for the nuns. So you can just go there. True stories that over in Perth, this gentleman came to see me. I'd never seen him before, and he announced to me that he was a building surveyor in the local council. He'd signed off on many of our building applications. And he said, "This is my last day at work. I've come here to thank you for your car park." That's what he said. I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Every time I get stressed out at work, I just go to your car park, sit in my car, and even though it's just a car park, it's still more peaceful than outside, and I can just relax and chill, and that's all I need." Sometimes, because I live in monasteries, I don't appreciate them the way that you can. You come in there and you have a busy day, just go and sit in the monastery. You don't have to give any donations, no one will take your name. You just sit down there quietly and just relax. Because that's what the whole place is about. And it's wonderful that we won't take your name, we won't disturb you, we won't say anything. We want to have you have that freedom and peace, just to unwind and be still. And when you can do that, it's amazing how many people, I never know their names, come to a monastery, they just sit down and they go away afterwards, saying thank you for your car park. It's kind of sweet, but it's how it works. Yeah?
So, yeah. I live with my elderly mother, she's in her mid-80s.
Yes.
So I try to remember she's my mother and all the kindnesses that she's done me when I was a baby.
Yes.
But any advice on helping me to help her overcome her frustrations with aging?
Ah, yes. Sometimes it's a weird thing in the West that when we get old, people try to hide their age. And I was very pleased in Asia, especially in the northeast of Thailand, people often add 1 or 2 years to their age. They're not embarrassed about it at all. They do get seniority and respect, and they're not afraid of getting old. Look at me. How old am I now?
You said 72.
Yeah, actually that's not correct. I am 871. No, not days, months.
Yeah, it was 900.
No, 900's okay.
It's too old to remember that.
Yeah, leap years and stuff. But anyhow, when I say that, I'm not lying. Because it's really impressive. When you go into a school and you say, how old are you? 971. How old was Yoda in Star Wars?
800.
800?
Oh.
There we go, I'm senior to him. You tell that to kids. So you say multiply by 12, so when you go to school, and they only say 10 years of age, how old are you? And they say 120. That means you don't have to go to school anymore. Is that a good idea? Sorry?
She asked me if that was my phone.
Okay, yeah, it's okay.
So even women who add years to their age.
Men as well. Yeah, it's cool to be old. Means you don't have to work so hard.
But the question.
Yeah, what was the question? I ain't got a clue what the question is.
How to help my mother.
Oh, how to help her. Add a few years onto a birth certificate and say, look, you're really old now, Mum, so I respect you. Now, just the kindness as best as possible. that she may not be happy with how she is, but you're always beautiful. Your wisdom, your kindness, all the things you've learned, all the stories you have. You say 82. That was the age of Brenda.
Do you know when it's supposed to say?
I'm not telling you, I'm just announcing it. This was on part of my trip here. I tried to get to see her last time, but she had COVID. And this is like a cousin, a real cousin, my father's sister's daughter. The last time I saw her was at her wedding. That was over 60 years ago, I think. I was 10 at the time. So I haven't seen her for such a long time. But it's wonderful to see her. Because, when you're getting old like that, there's a lot of things aren't important anymore. When you get old, you have this other way of looking at life. You're not going to get on anymore in life. If you haven't made it yet, you're not going to make it now at 72 or 82. But she's had a wonderful life. And still got lots of energy. I really enjoyed being with her at that time. So it's wonderful to be able to when you're 82, just relax. And some of the things which elderly people like, the food they like. Sometimes people's food preferences change. So give her the food which she likes.
I would, but that's mainly biscuits.
Yeah, it doesn't matter as long as she likes them. One of the food which I always liked, and which I was so happy to see, the oldest man in Australia this year, 110 years of age. That's been doing pretty well. And he puts his old age down, or his health and old age down, to eating baked beans every morning. And because of that, Heinz baked beans issued a special can in his honour with his face on the front of the can. I thought, how cool is that? I only mentioned that because I like baked beans. If I didn't like it, I wouldn't mention it. Okay, so be kind to her. Have you read the book Open the Door of Your Heart?
No.
Because there's a poem in there. A poem about looking after your elderly mum. And because in that book, the poem goes something like, once your mum gets old, sometimes it's, she can ask and ask and ask and really frustrate you, give you a hard time. Whenever she asks for something, always give it. Because the day will come when she can ask no more. And that's such a sad time for you. And the reason why I included that poem in Open the Door of Your Heart was the author. The author was a person quite well known, but not as a poet. His name was, and this is no exaggeration, his name was Adolf Hitler. He wrote this beautiful poem about love for mother. He wasn't a great person or a good person, but he had good qualities. That's why I find you can't judge anybody without knowing everything about them. Even he had a beautiful side. Just like when I was in the United States, there was, in California, there was talking about this gentleman who was a leader of one of the big gangs in San Francisco, the Crips I think it was called. He was this kid who led that and created so much crime. He was put in San Quentin with a death sentence, and in the meantime, while he was waiting, to be executed, he did this voluntary work, counselling other kids who were in the gangs. And because he'd been there, he knew the language, he knew what it was like personally. It was amazing what he could do to get some of these young kids out of those gangs, out of drugs, out of violence, and give them a really good life. And when I heard and even read some of the stories of his successes as a counsellor while still in jail, on death row, that I was also told there was a huge petition going around trying to commute his sentence to life imprisonment instead of death. But at that time, the governor in California was a man called Arnie Schwarzenegger, the Terminator. And the quote, I'm just quoting him, don't agree with it at all. He said, "Forgiveness is a girly thing to do." I thought, oh my goodness. That little kid was doing so much good, helping others. At the very least, you should let him continue helping others. Instead of just, and he was executed. That's a stupid thing to do. I've known many people. This is one of those other stories I've been telling on this retreat, because I was telling on the last retreat which I gave. There was one of in our retreat centre over in Perth, that the cook, the person who usually does the cook, their husband got cancer, so she had to cancel. She said, "I can't do any cooking this next few days." So I was left without a cook, and 60 people on the retreat. I had to find a cook somewhere. And I found a brilliant cook. His name was Carl. And he worked so hard for absolutely nothing. An incredible cook. At the end of the retreat, we usually thank everybody, thank all the volunteers. And he wasn't there though. So all these retreatants, they asked me, "Where's Carl gone? He was so kind, a great cook, would help everybody. Anyone needed any special food, he would do it for them." I said, "Where is he?" And he says, "He's gone back to jail. He was on work release." And they asked, "What did he do?" "He was a rapist." And at that, it's just like you, people went quiet. You could read their minds. "Ajahn Brahm, you let a rapist come to our retreat for 9 days and feed us?" "Yes. I knew him very well. He did those crimes when he was young, on drugs. He's overcome the drug addiction quite a few years ago now. And he's overcome, that violence inside of him." And I said, what he really loved to do was to somehow serve and give back, for all the terrible things he's done in life, to actually to give back and do some good. And everybody understood at the end. They said, what a wonderful thing to do, to show that, you're not a rapist forever. That, there's a time in your life you're really stupid and in drugs, and you lose control. You don't know what's right or wrong. But to give people an opportunity and a chance later on in their life to make amends and do some good is a wonderful service, which I could do and show other people how to do that. Forgiveness is a beautiful thing. He's now married, very lovely fellow, never done any more wrong. It just, the drug addiction when he was young caused him to do that. Bad choices. All the time I've visited prisons, I've never seen a thief. I've never seen a murderer. I've never seen a rapist. I've never seen a criminal. Never. All I've ever seen is a person who's done a murder, a person who's done a theft, a person who's done fraud. For some reason in their life, a lot of it is drugs or conditioning from their peers. And they do stupid, bad things. But it doesn't make them a stupid, bad person. I don't know what you've done in your life which was stupid, which was bad. You don't need to tell me. Instead of punishing yourself, please acknowledge it, forgive it, and learn to be a better person from it. That's all. Do you like being punished? Of course not, it's a stupid reaction. Forgiveness is something wonderful. And that's actually something for you, getting divorced. If you find a nice guy later on, and you decide to have another relationship with someone, can I ask you that whenever you commit to another guy, or girl, or whatever, be honest, then please every year, on an anniversary, do a little ceremony of forgiveness. Because I've only done one celebratory wedding, which was I think in Vogue magazines in the East. And she said that the most important thing which I told her at her wedding was to every year have a ceremony, which is the two of them, husband and wife, meet together and have a middle meal. And then whoever does it first doesn't matter, to say to your partner, whatever I've done by body, by speech, by mind, intentional or just by accident, or things I should have done which I didn't do, I really am sorry. There's some things which I haven't realized, please let me know. I want to improve in our relationship every year. So you have this wonderful forgiveness ceremony. Whoever does it first, the other one forgives, and then says afterwards, whatever I've done by body, by speech or by mind, even thoughts, on purpose or just by accident, or things I didn't do which I should have done, I'm sorry, I really am. Please forgive me. And you do always, when a person is sincere asking forgiveness, you must always give them forgiveness. And you learn and you grow. And that's why this celebrity, she had her own TV show in Malaysia, that she also later on told me that story had kept her marriage together for such a long time. The most wonderful thing which I shared with her. So I share that with you. Any relationship you have, please do that forgiveness ceremony on the important days of your life. Our anniversaries are great. But do it sincerely.
So,
Yeah, go.
even if Hitler was alive and came to your monastery, you would forgive him?
I would, but first of all I'd shave off his silly moustache. Otherwise someone would recognise him and they'd criticise me and put me in some sort of camp. Give him a new hairstyle. Put him in some hippie beads or something. Because a lot of the time you see a person, you expect something. And sometimes you live up to those expectations. So yeah, of course he'd be dead by now, but I always thought, what would happen if like Hitler went, he died and went to see some god or something. I said, if a god is a god of love, he'd look at Hitler and say the same. Shave off your moustache, change your hairstyle, give you a new name, but don't ever do that again. But you still can also go to heaven and learn to be a better human being. That's more powerful than punishing. One more? Oh yes.
In meditation, what is jhana and how do you know?
Oh wow. I gave a talk about that a couple of days ago. Yesterday, yeah. Sounds like a couple of days. This is a deep meditations, what I was really like talking about. When you meditate, just any of you, you get more and more still, more and more peaceful. When things become peaceful and still, they disappear. It's just like, there's an aircon in this room? Yeah, there's an aircon in this room. Can you hear it? I can now. After a while you can't hear it, because it doesn't change. Imagine that all the other 5 senses were the same. You close your eyes, you see the inside of your eyelids, but after a while, sight turns off. Sound. Even if somebody coughs, it's that kind of ambient. The brain is not really concerned with things like coughs. A big shout or a big change of noise, then it will turn on. But most noise is just ambient, it will turn off. And the same with of feelings in the body. A lot of time you sit still and you can't feel your feet, you can't feel your butt, you can't feel your hands. Sometimes the breath is moving, that's why we usually can see the breath, whether we like it to do it or not, whether we choose to do it or not. Just the breath becomes prominent. But as you calm down and the breath becomes more and more peaceful, even the breath vanishes. You're still breathing, but it's just going so smoothly, you can't notice it. And as long as no one's had baked beans this morning, the smell doesn't change. So your five senses eventually just turn off. But when you're meditating, you're still always mindful in this moment, and you're not afraid of developing joy and happiness. Many of you know me for quite a few years. Am I a happy monk? Where did that happiness come from? Even after work and have to endure trains which don't run on time. Nevertheless, doesn't mean you don't need to be happy. So that joy is there in the meditation, which means your mindfulness is getting very powerful. These days I call it kindfulness, being aware and being kind. And when all those five senses vanish, and you're fully aware, poised, and that becomes a jhana. Somebody talks to you, you can't hear them. If it's just the timing of this talk this evening runs out, we just lift you from your seat and put you in your car, and you don't know that anyone lifted you up. You're just perfectly happy inside, and you wake up in your car. It's amazing what can happen, but if five senses turns off, and afterwards you really are blissed out. And I love people to be blissed out. Why not? That's the sort of happiness and the joy which tells you just about what this Buddhism is all about. And the insight which you get from that afterwards, your mind is like cleaned up and pure, and you can see so much joy and happiness. A good example of that, I know I'm going over time, when you come out of meditation, you open your eyes and you see the carpet. You go, wow, what a beautiful carpet. You're not making it up. You can see so much more beauty in this. Can I do that other story? Okay, here we go. You weren't quick enough. This is a true story. Absolutely gross, but true. It actually happened, because it happened to me. Over in our retreat centre in Perth, when I meditate, when I'm teaching a retreat and enjoy the meditation, and sometimes you have a really nice deep meditation, you're blissing out. And afterwards, whatever you see is gorgeous, it's beautiful. And you can see so deeply into it. So just like any other human being, monks and nuns are the same, we have to go to toilet. And this particular time I had to do a number 2. My mistake was having sat down there and done a number 2. You know what number 2 is, don't you? Okay, good. I looked at the contents in the bowl. Honestly, wow. Never in my whole life had I seen something so incredibly beautiful. I don't know why you're laughing. Next time you go, have a look. First of all, the shape of it. These little balls and the way they're sculpted together. It does look like something like Michelangelo sculpted. It's incredibly well balanced. And the different colours of brown. It's not a single shade of brown. And just the way that the colours interact, as if they were painted just by some incredible, like a Da Vinci or something. I'm rushing this, but I usually spend much more time describing the incredible beauty. And not just the beauty, the fragrance. Look, honestly, that sometimes, even in the train, just as we were leaving, there's one lady, And she really stank, and she put some perfume on her or something, I don't know. She had that pinkish hair.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, oh,
I didn't smell anything.
I smelt it. Ugh. It was so fake. You know, such perfume. It's just really over the top. But something which was real, earthy. You know, the smell of poo. It's kind of real, not like fake. And so was that was really fragrant. And then, of course, the problem came, what to do next. And I did a couple of times think I'll take that out. And why not? It was beautiful. And just show all my friends. It's the most beautiful turd I've ever lied in my life. But it's only because I was a monk. If I hadn't all the training in letting go, I would not have been able to press that button at the top. A couple of times I tried and I just, no, I can't do this. I was attached to that little brown thing floating in the bottom. Eventually I just pressed the button. And the most beautiful thing I'd ever created went out of my life forever. That was so sad. Okay, go on, yeah.
That's it, Ajahn.
So after the jhana, you see everything in your surroundings all blends into, or something, you know,
You see it beautiful.
deep into the
You can.
and whatever, you know.
Yeah, you can have these great insights because your mind is clean and pure. But it's also have great joy. Whatever you see, I mean whatever. The food tastes more beautiful. The coffee, if you ever get to drink it, tastes more delicious. Everything is more beautiful. Quick.
Sorry. Can I just ask what's like the simple recipe to be able to be like so forgiven?
Sorry?
So like how can you be so like forgiven? Like what's an easy way to make be able to forgive?
Forgiving is, if you're the victim, you still have a choice. You can carry on being a victim, or you can decide to forgive. And if you forgive, you become a victor, not the victim. There's this lady told that story when she found one of the doctors who treated her and had to insist in Auschwitz. I don't know how she managed to do this, but she invited that junior doctor into Auschwitz, and then she forgave him there. She said for so many years she was a victim, remembered all the pain of seeing her twin sister be experimented on, and she was also experimented on too. And then when she found one of the people responsible, to actually go up to him and say, I forgive you. I'm not going to allow you or any of those people to give me any pain anymore. You are forgiven. I don't know what anybody's done to you, but you can always do that. And you're free. Okay.